Okay, so I wasn't really expecting to do this video. To be fair, I wasn't really expecting to do that other video I did about the HBO Max theatrical streaming release from Warner Brothers. But I did that video, and I said I was going to do a video later this year about my top 10 films of this year. So, but something about this movie I want to talk about a little bit. The movie is Ava, and in case you haven't heard of it, it stars Jessica Chastain as the main character, who has had a rough past as an addict, joined the army. Now she works for this organization called the Company, which is hired assassins and killers. But she has this thing where she kind of wants to just kill bad people, sort of. It's a little complicated. But anyway, the main story of this movie is that she goes back to Boston to her family a little bit after the death of her father, which is the reason why she left in the first place. Her father's an asshole, and she unknowingly goes back shortly after her mother goes to the hospital due to the heart attack situation. And it's about reconnecting with her family and people she left behind, and that being tense and hard to do. And her handler is also there for her a little bit, especially when it starts to seem like someone within the company is trying to kill her. And that's the gist of the movie, more or less. But I'm not really doing it justice because, alright, when I first heard of this movie, I saw the scores online at Rotten Tomatoes. I know I don't really put a lot of trust in Rotten Tomatoes, but when a movie is usually really bad or it's really good, they, for the most part, tend to be fairly accurate. Of course, you'll give bad reviews to movies that don't deserve it at all. Same for giving good reviews to movies that definitely don't deserve it. But this has Jessica Chastain in it. I want to check it out because I love her. Kind of have a bit of a crush on her, to be honest. But of course, I was cautious because even though the critic score was really low, the audience score wasn't much better. So I watched it on Netflix because they gained distribution rights, at least for the United States, and yeah, it's good. Is it great? Well, there's stuff in it I would call great. Alright, so obviously the main positive of this movie is Jessica Chastain. She's a great actress, and this is a great role for her to play as. But the one thing that's really holding this character back for me is that they don't really seem to do much. Well, I wouldn't say they don't do much action because there's definitely action in here, but it's not done in a John Wick style, which I think is something we've all kind of got used to in a sense. Like, I was expecting the action to be sort of like John Wick. I'm not sure why I expected that. Maybe it's because the worlds are a little similar, the visual style's a little similar, so maybe some John Wick style action. We didn't really get that. The action, for the most part, is decent, so nothing terribly wrong there. And for the most part, this movie's actually fairly good. I think what's holding it back from being really great is that they actually probably should have done more of an embrace on the more dramatic part of the story, the reconnecting with her family and people she left behind, her past as an addict and such, and how that probably connected to her job as a hired killer. I mean, they do dive into that a little bit, but I think they could have done a little bit more. And I think they would have had more time and effort to do it if they took out the plot about someone within the company trying to kill her. Because if you focus on her like being an addict in the past and her still having a troubled life now, you could save that plotline about someone within trying to take her out for a sequel. But as is, I actually did enjoy it more than I thought I would. I mean, like I said, Jessica Chastain is awesome. The action, for the most part, is decent. It's shot nice. There are some great shots in this film. John Malkovich actually does a good job. Colin Farrell, he's decent enough. There's a little bit of a nice thing that I think he did towards the end of the film. And the other supporting actors, like her sister, her mother, and the sister's boyfriend, who used to be Chastain's fiance in the movie, they all did good stuff as well. I don't know, I guess I just really want to air my thoughts on this movie because it seems like it's getting a little bit of a bad rep when it doesn't really need to have that rep. I actually would be interested in checking out a sequel. I mean, I'm not sure what the rights for the film are like because I think this was planned theatrically, but then Netflix gained the rights because of COVID. Maybe they can find a way to produce and make a sequel film, bringing back Jessica Chastain, of course, and still keeping that same quality, if not bumping it up a bit more, so it could be a little bit more like John Wick in terms of action at least, and know where to focus on the right stuff. Because I would really dig a sequel for this if it's done with a little bit more effort and focus. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. I'm as surprised I made this video as you probably are. So that's all I really have to say. Bye.